Hey everybody, it's Susan with Susan Monroe Art, and today I'm going to show you how I did this sketch of Big Ben in my calendar sketchbook. My calendar sketchbook is where I've made my calendar. Every week has all the days of the week and my plans on one side, but then on the other side I make a little watercolor sketch of whatever I feel like doing, and it's the art that I look at for the week. It's a great practice to get into so that you're at least consistently drawing. If you can't do it every day, then you're doing it every week, and I think it's really helped my drawing and my watercolor ability. So the one I'm doing today is Big Ben. This is from a photograph I took on vacation several years ago, and the thing I really can't wait to show y'all is how I did this fun watercolor edge. I just think it gives the picture a lot of vitality and a lot of interest, and it's super easy to do, so I hope that you'll keep watching to learn how to do this. I want to say thank you for choosing my channel. I also want to say thank you for your support if you're a subscriber. I hope that you'll give this video a thumbs up if you like it. That will help YouTube to pick it up and show it to more people. Also, please consider subscribing to my channel and clicking the bell icon so you can be notified when I do more watercolors. I've been doing a whole series of watercolors in my calendar sketchbook. Here's one I put up, I think a week or two ago. This is at Père Lachaise Cemetery in Paris. This was from a trip in Croatia. I'm calling it armchair urban sketching. Actual urban sketching is when you go on location and say, I'd actually be sitting in front of Big Ben and sketching it. But when I'm on vacation, I'm with other people. They really don't want to just stand around while I sit and sketch. So I take photos of things that I want to sketch later. And then when I come home, I do what I call armchair urban sketching, where I just sit at my desk at home and take my time and sketch all these things that I've seen and enjoyed. So please keep watching. Thanks again for tuning in, and let's get going with the video. This is the photo I'm going to be working from. There are two reasons I chose it. One is I like the contrast of colors, the yellow and the blue. And also I like the way that Big Ben was sort of leaning away from the camera in that shot. I thought it gave it a lot of energy and interest. Here I'm starting to put down my main straight lines, my reference points. I'm drawing some right angles. I'm drawing the line that's going to be that corner that's closest to us in the photo. I think drawing straight lines sometimes is really one of the hardest things to do, and there's nothing wrong with using a ruler or a straight edge to help you do that. Next, I'm going to start with the main structures of the tower. I want to work from large to small. You don't start with little tiny details and then fill around them. You want to get in your bigger shapes and then put the smaller shapes within them. I'm paying special attention to the angles and to my proportions. If my angles are off, the perspective is going to look wrong. If my proportions are off, the tower is going to look too short and squatty or too tall and thin. That's another reason I really like using the pencil at this point. It just makes me feel better to know if I screw it up, I can erase it at any time and start over again, because if you mess up either of those things, your final picture is probably not going to be the way you want it to be. There'll just be something wonky about it, something off. Think of your pencil drawing and your ink drawing as the line drawing in a coloring book. And if that drawing in the coloring book is off, you're not going to be happy with your finished coloring. Your watercolors are the coloring of your coloring book drawing that you've done, in this case, Big Ben. So you want to be really precise and careful with your drawing. That's the basis for getting a good watercolor. The drawing is what takes the longest for me to do in any watercolor. I admit the painting part is the part I like the best. I love mixing those colors and putting the paint down, but I have to think of this like if I'm going to paint a room, I have to do the proper prep work. My drawing is the proper prep work for my watercolor. And I do enjoy the drawing. And as I've practiced and as I have filled more sketchbooks, I've come to enjoy it more and more. The issue with a lot of people doing their drawings is when you start to draw, you're going to make a lot of really not great drawings, and that's frustrating. You might have a sketchbook and you are drawing all the time in it and you're not seeing improvement or you're feeling like your drawings are bad, I promise you, I have sketchbooks full of what I think are ugly drawings. But they are actually learning drawings. I'm learning something new every time I mess up a drawing. Then I go watch YouTube videos and whatever to help me improve my drawing skill and then practice it some more. So you can't come right out of the gate expecting to do the perfect drawing. Give yourself some grace, be a little patient, and just keep at it, keep at it, keep at it, and you'll slowly improve. You know, it's like that way with so many things. And drawing and painting is definitely no exception. So at this point in the drawing, I was working hard at spacing out these divisions that run the height of Big Ben, getting those in there properly. And the thing that really helped me get those long straight lines in was the fact that I had used my straight edge for the corners of the building. And so I could use those to guide me as I drew the other divisions in there. And here I'm drawing the clock faces. Circles and ellipses can be difficult to draw. If you draw a square and then draw your ellipse or circle inside it, like I had to do here for Big Ben, you'll find they're a lot easier to get correct. It's just a little trick I've learned. I added the little gables that are on the top of that little spire and then the windows on the side. My photo did not show the bottom of Big Ben, so I wasn't really sure what that looked like. I just continued the same lines down the side. If someone's watching this from London and they see Big Ben all the time, they might say I did it wrong. I think there are doors in the bottom somewhere, so excuse that. I then continued on and I drew these buildings on the side of Big Ben, and now I'm ready for my inking. I use Unipen ink pens. I'm linking to them below. I'm going to link to all the supplies that I use in this drawing below. So if you would like to get the same things I'm using, you can do it. The sketchbook I'm using is not made out of watercolor paper, but that doesn't bother me. It's easy for me to write on for my calendar, and it's thick enough so that the paper doesn't all curl up. It's not real flimsy, so I like using it. So in my ink drawing, I'm using my biggest pen. In this drawing, it's a .03 to draw the main lines, the outside edges, the corners, any place where there's a major division in my drawing. Then I use the finer pens, my .2, .1, or .005 to draw the details. The finer the detail, the smaller the pen nib. So .005 is as fine as I have right now. I also used it to add just a little extra detail in. I suggested detail in a lot of the places with the pencil. Once I have the pencil lines down, that gives me a map of where I can put that extra detail with the pen. Another way to get some interesting detail in your ink drawing is to vary the amount of pressure you use as you're writing with the pen. Press down a little harder and then make it a little lighter, all in the same line. That's one of the reasons why when I'm drawing these long straight lines, I'm not using my straight edge. I like for my pen lines to have a little humanity to them, I guess. If I use the straight edge, then they're going to be perfectly straight. And I like this to have more of a hand-drawn look. And one way I do that is by varying the pressure on the pen. Or you could use a brush pen. You can even really get down some very thick lines with that and lighten it up. So here I'm using my white gel pen. I have made a mistake in this little area of the painting. And a white gel pen can cover up the ink pretty well. And then I can even paint on top of it. And it's like my eraser, a way to correct any mistakes I make in the ink drawing. Something to think about is how you use the pen in terms of your strokes. You want to make sure you're making nice, long strokes. I know in this it looks like I'm going super fast because it's sped up just because of time. It would take forever to show you the actual drawing time. But you want to be drawing slowly and carefully, making a long connected line and not little sketchy marks, unless that's your style and that's really what you're going for. But I find that can be disruptive to just to your eye as you're looking at the picture. Try and keep your pen down on the paper for the entire length of a line. Vary the pressure, but don't pick the pen up until the line is done. I'm finishing up my ink drawing by putting the lines on these buildings that are in the background of the picture. I always use my finest fine liner for that, the .005, because the finer line gives the illusion of distance. A thicker line makes something look closer to you. So since these little buildings are further away, I want to use the finer line marker for those. If I made a heavy line around them, it might confuse the eye a little bit in terms of perspective. And the last bit I'm going to work on with the ink pen is the face of the clock. I found out that in the restoration of Big Ben that they finished recently, they changed the clock face back to its original color, which is bright blue, which I think must be beautiful. All right, now once your ink is down and you've let it dry, you can erase all those pencil lines. Make sure you do it, because otherwise when you paint on them, the paint will sort of seal them in there and you can't erase them later. Get that done and we'll get on to the painting. Before I started painting anything, I mixed up 3 large puddles of color. Number 1 being for for Big Ben itself, and in that yellow I used yellow ochre, I used Naples yellow, and a little bit of sepia just to dull it down. I don't want to run out of color in the middle of painting something, particularly on this paper, because it'll leave a line where I had to stop and the paint will dry and then start again. And there's no guarantee my paint will be the exact same shade as it was before. The bottom color that you're seeing is my shadow color. It's my all-purpose shadow color. I use it for almost everything. That's a mix of alizarin crimson, yellow ochre, and ultramarine blue. And then at the top is the brown I'm using for the steeple and other details like that. And that was sepia. And I did mix it with a little bit of sap green because I thought there was a little green shade in that brown. So once I mixed all those up, then I was ready to start painting. For this detail area, I've switched from the larger flat brush that I used to paint the base color on Big Ben to a number 2 brush that is finer for detail. I really don't like to use a brush that's smaller than this size because I find that it doesn't really hold enough watercolor for me to paint more than just a stroke or 2. The number 2 is pretty much perfect for the amount of detail I'm doing here. And the style of brush I use, or the brand of brush, is Princeton Aqua Elite. I'm not sponsored by Princeton brushes or anything. I have to buy them like anybody else. I just think they hold a good point and they last a good amount of time if you take care of them. I've got a link below in the description if you want to buy brushes like this off of Amazon, or they sell them at local hobby stores. They're on sale frequently, so you can generally get them for a good price. I generally use pointed brushes. I just am used to that, and that's what I like to do. But I'd suggest experimenting with different brushes and see what works best for you. There's such a wide variety out there, and I find that you can even do some great detail with a larger size brush, provided that it comes to a nice sharp point at the end. And that's one reason to keep your brushes in good condition. You don't want to ruin those bristles and have them spread. Make sure you wash them out gently. There's some brush cleaners out there that are really good. And then you let them dry laying flat so the water doesn't run back down in that metal collar on the brush. It's called the ferrule. Then if you do that, it'll expand the wood. Then the ferrule will be loose and the bristles will start to fall out. And that's one way to ruin a brush. So make sure you lay your brushes flat to dry them. The shadow color that I'm using here, I think, is a really great mix because depending on the quantity of each color you use, the blue, the yellow ochre, or the alizarin crimson, you can make it a warm or a cool shadow. You can make it look like reflected light or a cast shadow. It's a color mixture that I've been using for years. Now I'm finally at the point where I can share this fun watercolor edge technique with you. The first thing I did was wet the paper. Probably not the best idea considering this wasn't watercolor paper, but if you're using watercolor paper, definitely do it. I just wanted the paint to be really loose and very movable. I chose a mixture of turquoise and Windsor blue for the sky, and I made sure there was extra paint, almost little puddles of paint around the edges. Then I got a straw And you can see just blew out these fun little, I don't know, fun little rivers of color around the outside of the picture. And I think it just makes a really fun finish. I saw this done by somebody on Instagram, and for the life of me, can't remember who. I wish I could, because I would definitely give them credit for such a fun technique. Maybe if you know, someone could write it down in the comments. But I just got a straw from one of my kids. They had left it in the kitchen. Nothing special about it. Made sure I put, like I said, extra paint, extra wet paint, especially around the edges. You could even add paint if it wasn't wet enough the first time around, and then just blow it out. It'll go wild. It'll go places you didn't expect. And I think that's half the fun of it, though, sort of the unexpectedness and the interest that that edge piece shows. So here I am. I'm pretty much done with the picture. I was just going in and touching up a couple of places that needed some color in them. They're a little white around the edges. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that you'll give it a try. I will put this picture of Big Ben up on my Pinterest page, so if anybody wants to try to paint it, they can. I'll link to that down in the bottom as well. Feel free to use it, just don't sell it. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you'll subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. Take care and have a great day. Bye-bye.